Here's paper.
Thank you.
Here. It's sort of like the big postcard. Here you go, man.
Thank you.
I don't want to interrupt your tweeting.
That's sweetie. Anti-tweeting.
So we're going to get started because the way my mind works is my kids actually call me like the Black Sheldon. So if anyone knows anything about the Big Bang Theory. When I talk about bridging the gap of emotional science, I'm talking about from the brain all the way down to the whole body, okay? We know that the brain is an active participant. Actually, we know that the mind is more of an active participant, and the brain is something we can adapt to or learn from. Awesome. But I want to get, before I get to the brain and the mind and in the body, a lot of us live, majority of people live in trauma. And the trauma is caused by X. So it's a variable. You may not ever know what the X is until you do some type of therapy, regressive therapy, or any of the other amazing sciences that are out there to help you understand where your trauma extends from. Great. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to walk this board through. So you have a trauma, doesn't matter where it's from. In that trauma, what do you think keeps the trauma active?
The mind.
The mind. Is it the mind or the brain?
Brain. Memory.
No, it's the mind. So the mind, let me define what the mind is for you. The mind, there's so many different words for it, and I've called it the crock-pot mind or the monkey mind. People call it the monkey mind. But the mind is the most over-aggressive protector in your whole existence of life. So if you ever heard of an overprotective mother, your mind supersedes that 1,000 times. Because it keeps cataloging the information. So if you split the mind between the brain, the mind is the mechanical part. The brain is the conscious part, subconscious part. That's the part we can work on. Because the mind is just bringing in information. Through what parts? We have 5 of them. Senses, right. Which part has the strongest of action of the mind? It's sight. It's 30%. 30%. Now, which is the strongest of the senses? It's smell. So you see how the mind is starting, it just keeps pulling in these pieces, right? If I see something I wasn't too comfortable with, so now I see this picture I wasn't too comfortable with, right? The mind knows how uncomfortable I am. So as I walk into an area, my mind has already scanned this. And it knows exactly where this is. And it triggers the trauma. So the mind says, Paul, not just in short, but distract you to turn your head so I'll never see this. It does that to protect you. In that protection, in the brain, we have, in short, we have the front, the sides, and the back. When that protection happens, where do you think it happens in the brain? Do you know? The front, the sides, or the back? The what?
The back.
The back. And you know it's called the amygdala, right? Most people know it's the amygdala is a freeze, flight, or flight. That's because that is all conditionary of survival. So the mind works in that in conditions. It just keeps wanting to protect you, never wanting any harm from you, never wanting you to display anything that's going to upset you. It always wants you to be in blissfulness. So what other people may call suppression, the mind is like, I'm not suppressing, I'm protecting. That makes sense. Because it cares for you. It's yours. What I'm hoping to get people to do is understand that you have to live and develop consciousness, and you've heard that term before, with your subconsciousness to live what you call a singularity action of life instead of a duality. A splitting between your rear and your front. And to do that, you must understand what the trauma is and how it's being triggered. If you do not understand the trigger of the trauma is never, you're not going to forget the trauma. You may never want to remember it again, but the trauma's there. So if the trauma stays an active participant in your directional of movement and action, who's leading who? Who's leading who? You're not leading anything. You're not even living your best life. You're not even an active participant in what you are doing and want to do. So you're right when people say, learn how to be intentional or action to attention or attention to action or do... Yes, sir?
You mean like if I have a trauma, I'm afraid to go over a bridge, it'll keep me from going over the bridge.
Yeah, we'll reroute you. It's the most, we call it GPSing. It'll reroute you around that bridge. And people are like, I know his name is Paul. Hey, Paul, why are you not going over the bridge? He goes, I think I have to make a stop in Sea Caucus. Because you probably do, but guess who designed the stop? Your mind did. And you will develop a stop in Sea Caucus and go through the tunnel. And it will just be logical. It's just like, it just makes sense. And for some reason, every time he's got to go over this way, there's a new stop somewhere this way to get him under the tunnel. Not because it's telling him, Paul, what petrified the bridge? Don't go to the bridge. It's not going to help you live that and feel it internally. So, because we know we have what you call an emotional body, right? Who knows about the emotional body? Excellent. The emotional body has organs and development cellularly that stores information like grandparents hold Christmas cards. It just keeps rereading them. Like, oh, you remember when she wrote this? You remember when they wrote this card? And I'm like 40. I'm not sending you any cards anymore. I'm just, if you don't have a text, that's it. You're not getting another card. But your organs remembers information. It remembers what you once were. So it keeps that. And as it does, as it keeps that, we know that the body is chemically produced, right? We have carbon dioxide, oxygen, and so on. So in that, because it gets remembering, like your nana remembering your birthday, it's going to send you a signal out to you. Hey, I haven't heard from Paul in a long time. And then it sends me a signal, and then that's the emotional body causes conflict. In that conflict, I do not mentally understand why I'm sinking, but I am emotionally. In that emotional disconnect, and the reason why I call it emotional disconnect is because you don't know where it's coming what? From. That's the disconnect. If we live in emotional disconnect, then you're always going to be stuck in that trauma. Because it's a cycle now. Now it's cyclical. What I want to help you understand is the science of how to break the cycle. So, in the science of how to break the cycle, mechanically is doing all the other great things. Eating the right foods. Name off a couple. Come on. Exercise. What's another one? Meditation. And we're practicing Buddhist for the last 20 years. I'm a Tibetan Buddhist.
Being in nature.
Huh?
Being in nature.
Nature. What?
Get enough sleep.
Sleep. All these helps breaks the cycle. But what breaks the condition?
You have to release.
You're saying?
Ooh, yes. But how do you, with all the great things they just said, does that help you stop the condition?
You're saying keep the emotional body from running your life?
Correct. How do you stop that?
What was that answer? I didn't hear.
Finding your trigger.
Keep the emotional body from running your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being like mindful of when those thoughts are
Excellent. But how to do? How to do it? It's not the exercise. It's not eating the right foods. It's not meditation. So how are you supposed to do it if you don't know the trigger?
like, I can't think of the word, but like reminding yourself
that you're great and you're a wonderful person, you're amazing, and you're amazing, because you are. I think you're amazing. I think everyone's amazing. I think you are. I think, self-sabotage is, man, that's a whole other class. You have to, there it is. Ooh, you got extra? You got sub B?
You have to find out what it is.
So you said feel.
You feel it, yeah. I sometimes don't know what I'm feeling.
Exactly. And I'm worried about if you understand what you're feeling. I want you to know where you're feeling it.
Where in your body?
Where? Where? That is connection. It's kind of like falling in love. How do you know I'm in love?
So you're saying it manifests?
No, it is the connection. It doesn't manifest. It is the connection. Remember, our bodies still have a vibrational. Did you know our bodies have a vibrational code to what we feel and to the interaction of the environment and the experience and all those other things? Okay. So when we have a vibrational code, we are allowed for that vibration to receive and transmit. Understanding the feeling is important. Because once you understand the feeling, then you can take your time to understand the connection to where it is in the body. Because that's the emotional body. Because remember, it holds feelings like Nana holds Christmas cards. Right? It's just going to hold on to them. That's the connection. We're not even talking about understanding why it holds it. I could care less. Because that's a whole other different practice. But recognize. Let's keep, here it is. The Awakening Fear, we're learning about awareness of self. Majority of exercises you're going to do is awareness of self. In that awareness, what are you aware of?
Sensations.
Okay, so what does that sensation tell you? Because the body is always speaking. It's a chatterbox. I was going to say chatty Cathy, but I was going to tell him my age if I said that. But it's always talking and sending you stuff. The problem is that we discard it for either nonsense or not being hard enough. The signal isn't like hitting us over the head. But the signals are coming through proper digestion. Because we know the second brain is where? In our stomach. So I meet, what's your first name?
Danny?
Danny. I'm Paul. If I felt a great connection, my body lets me know. If I felt uneasy, sometimes I'm going to have maybe constipation later. It just happens. Not because, what was, because
How did you know? Because today you're going to meet hundreds of people.
Right.
Like, many things happen in a day.
But, okay, have you met someone that you've never met before that somehow you just felt good?
Yeah, that would be an immediate
Thank you.
sensation.
But that's the sensation of feeling. Understanding where that feels good, boom, and recognize it. Shaking someone's hand I just don't feel comfortable with, not because we're adultly we have aptitude of being socially apt.
Inept.
No, not inept. Apt. Because if I don't like you, I'm still going to be cordial, right? Because I'm an adult. I'm not going to go, okay? I don't like you. So being socially apt, I'm going to be able to be cordial and kind. But I have to understand that something about her and I, and it has nothing to do with who she is. It has everything to do with what? My connection to who?
Yourself.
To myself.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So-
This is what this is.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
With that, and I feel, I don't know if I've just become more aware of it,
Good for you. Come on. That's what we want you to do.
but there's a lot of people in my life, whether it be work-related
Yeah.
or family-related, that I really, now paying attention to those negative feelings I'm getting when I'm around them. And I need to just kind of keep it brief and keep my space and
So that's the action you're creating for the uneasy feeling.
Yeah.
Now I want you to train backwards and understand why you have that disconnect with them. You're still, I'm not
doing that myself.
I'm not asking you to change the disconnect, but where does the disconnect come from that you're not happy with this?
I've been thinking a lot about that lately. I don't know where that's coming from.
Instead of thinking, I want you to feel where? The sensation in the body. That's going to give you your information. The other stuff, like, because you can look it up, come on, there's tons of stuff on Pinterest. I think I cook more through Pinterest than anything else, right? So you can bring up the emotional body, and it has all these points all over it, right? So I feel it, here, or here, or here, or wherever. It's just, what's that sensational body feeling is. And then if it comes up where it's loss, right? Where loss is like right here. And why do I have a sense of loss? Because that's the uneasy feeling, because loss doesn't feel good with this person. Oh, because they remind me of. Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Rita,
Hi, Miss Rita.
I couldn't help but think of when you were asking her about the person, and I think of this a lot. Someone I was with for a few years, nice person, but,
Not anymore, though.
Never.
You're not with them.
No. Whenever I go into his house, I get such a feeling,
Something was wrong.
like sadness.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I don't wanna say let's get out of this house,
But that's what you. But guess what?
it
That
was,
feeling you have was talking to you. You picked it up.
but it was so, we had a relationship, but, yeah, it was like, where did this come from? I often think, where, and why?
Be careful.
I still think of
Be
it.
careful the whys. Why? I was going to ask you, why do you think that is? Be careful the whys. What makes you think why is not a good thing to really ask?
What's in your thinking mind and not.
Besides the thinking mind, you're right. Which side of the brain is that on? To the left. And if you're not in the thinking, if you're in the thinking mind, then you what's the other side of the mind that is where we call
Abstract,
abstract? What side of the mind is that?
right.
Right. So if you're in the thinking mind, you start an argument, and you start to develop you need a reason. Because thinking minds is like, that's a chair. How do you know that's a chair? It's got 4 legs. I've seen things with 4 legs. It's not a chair. Well, it's got a back. A horse has got a back, and it's not a chair. So you start to develop this. What's my information? Right? And that goes back to that mind. What's my catalog? Right? What's the catalog telling me I should be? Well, does it smell like a horse? So it must be a chair. Yes.
So, I'm just thinking about this whole scenario where I would feel like, as you mentioned, like it's your highest highest intelligence telling you something's off in the house.
So what do you mean by highest intelligence? Because I don't want to lose anybody, because there's different segments of higher intelligence because of the vibration. No, because you're correct.
I'm
Well,
saying
what are you referring to?
She has a gut feeling.
Yes.
She didn't, the first time she walked in, she didn't have a bad feeling.
She didn't know anything.
Like, oh, I'm going to walk in and have a bad feeling.
Right.
So it's her gut. So I'm like, okay, she probably trusts that. But the question I'm thinking about with all these cases is like, should she walk away from it? Should you walk away from all the people that are causing you negativity? And to what extent should we try to resolve that within ourselves to resolve the situation where now you are okay walking into the house, and should you be walking into the house?
So the negative feeling, the higher self, let's go back to negative feeling and the higher self. We're still talking about who initially? Or relative. Ourselves, and not the illusion of self, right? So if we're talking about ourselves, what's my connection to this uneasy feeling? What's my association to what's telling me where's the vibration coming from? The higher self, right? Because when you listen to your higher vibrational code, it is your higher self because it reaches out, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to. So, and then it works both hemispheres, and it circles this way, and then it gets into the fluid, which creates the oxygen, which runs to this way, comes into the brain. Once the oxygen connection, which you call, most people know it's the crown, right? Crown chakra opens up into the vibration of the universe. It sinks in and it has that code throughout the body. but it also oxygenates the blood in cerebral spinal fluid, which is called the circle Willis, and it goes around your head, and then it comes down into your spine, which in your brainstem is where consciousness develops. So that back of that brain comes down there. And then that little piece right back here is where brain, consciousness, and breathe. That's why breathing works so well, because you start to release that power up into the crown. Then the body starts to generate all these cool vibrations, signals cooling down the spinal cord, sending it off to the different nervous systems, to the cellular system, to the myofascia, which holds the bones and the tissue and the marrow. And so that's where the cool little science comes in. But if you block it off with the why, what are you creating?
Confrontation.
Confrontation. When you ask why, you create confrontation with who? Yourself. So ask a different question without using why.
And also, I noticed that
Oh.
when a person asks you why and you give an answer, if that person is not satisfied with their answer, they keep asking you and asking you.
So now I gotta defend myself. Why? You better back off. Because that's the why. Like, why are you asking me why? What's up with the why? I gave you an answer. Well, it wasn't good enough. Well, who's asking who? You do that with yourself. You do that with yourself. So, I want someone to come up with a different way of asking a question of information without asking why.
What is this situation trying to teach me or show me to help me grow my best?
Awesome. That's perfect. What is it? Or, let's make it shorter, because who's going to remember that?
But that's really what I'm asking. What is here?
What's the connection? What's the connection? So that brings it directly to you. What's the connection? Not where's the connection, because that makes it external, right? What's the connection is an internal question of self. Now, if you say, what is it, the famous? When I'm asking one of my children, did they clean their room? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You were just in there. Is it clean or not clean? I don't know. Wow. Do I have to go look? So, it's okay not to know. Don't be, that's where forgiveness comes in, right? It's okay not to know. You don't know. But now you're asking the question, so who out of the brain and the mind has the answer? No. Remember, the mind is what? The mind is informational. It's just bringing stuff in. So who has the answer between the brain and the mind? It's the brain. That's where the work comes in. The meditation work. The exercise work. Right? The eating better work. Because we need to clear out the field so we can have what you call, in science, we like to have an easy study, right? A plus B equals. So as long as I know I'm eating well, I'm living well, I'm in love, I'm happy, and I'm doing all that, and I still feel this, so now I have to search myself in my own emotional body. And that will give us the information. Because if you ask yourself why, then you say, what could it be? Could it be his house smells? And I don't know, you know. So it's just, you're creating too many variables. And that's not going to give you your answer. It's going to give you false readings. Because remember, if you heard this before, a lot of this living that we live in is perceptional thought, so it's an illusion. So you've created your own atmosphere just by what your perception is. If you just start to let the mind do its thing, and it's doing all the direction, it creates the illusion. But if you say, what is my connection? Then you allow for that connection to understand how it's flowing inside of you without question. That makes sense. There are 5 things that helps to understand the different blocks of life. This is where your pens come out. 5 things are blocks. One, you have emotions. Is emotions a thought or an action? Is emotions a thought or an action? It's a thought, right? Because it's a process. And I like to describe emotions like a pie. Most people look at a pie, apple pie, one of my favorites. It's not really a pie, but it's cheesecake. But it's, we always have that curiosity, like what's a cheesecake? It's not really cake, and I'm not getting into that. But a pie. We look at emotions as a pie, but the thinking part is all the ingredients. So it's what you put into your pie is what's coming out as the visual. Does that make sense? So all your thought process and signaling is the ingredients in your pie. Your emotions is the pie you see. Most people don't see the flour or the apples, and it depends on the dough and how you're rolling it and all. They don't see none of the sugars around it. Again, that's a Pinterest thing. So emotion, is it a thought or an action? It's a thought. Environment, is that a thought or an action? So that is an action. Because it's just is.
Is that number 2, environment?
Yes, environment. You know what? Thank you. What's your name?
Terry.
Terry? My brother's name is Terrence or Terry?
Terrence. Well,
Okay. Because my brother's name is Terrence, we call him Terry. So I'll give you the 5. You have emotions, you have environment, you have experience. These are all going to be easy, so I'll make it easier for you. Get it? Easier. So you have experience, then you have education, and then you have experience. So, okay.
Experience twice, yes.
Go. What do you got?
that's how good it is.
Emotion, environment, experience, education.
Right. And energy. Sorry.
Oh.
So, environment is just what it is. You can't change the environment, it's just what it's where you are at that time. That's it. That's the environment. What's next?
Experience.
Experience is what? It's everything what?
From your past.
From the past.
So it's
So is it a thought or an action? It's a thought. Right. What's the next one?
education.
Education. Things you are taught.
Thought.
Things you are taught. That's it. It's actually an action. Because it's directed to you. You're taught by many factions of life, right? Life isn't, right? Things you're taught. Not things you developed. That's why it's things that are developed for you that you take on, agree to, or disagree with. Doesn't matter. It's things that are put towards you. That's education. And the Buddhist philosophy, it's one of the things that says, always investigate your thoughts. That's one of the staples of Buddhism. He wants you to be an investigator of why you think this for you to get to your next level of life.
What about always investigate your education?
That's the same thing, things that you're taught. So things you're taught. What's next?
Energy.
Energy, we know energy is, but so it's how it's connected to you and how you are connected to it. How you're connected to you and how you're connected to it. In my geeky things, I say all things matter, meaning molecules, atoms, and subatomic particles. So all things matter. So how are you connected to that code? Sacred geometry, if you ever want to start developing that. Synchronicity, we talked about that, Paul and I. So how are you connected to the code of the living existence? Because you're part of it, you're not devoid of it. Right? Because we know that we are a microcosm of all things in the earth, right? All the levels and the nutrients and the chemical balances of our body is the same that a star has. That's pretty cool. Right? That's why sometimes you may have read or heard or seen that you're made of stars. Because the same compound that's in a star is inside your body. The ratios are different. Like carbon's different. oxygen is different, nitrogen is different, right? So all that's a little different, but the same properties of it. So all those 5 things, understanding them and how you are, they're either going to be blockages or they're going to set you free. Because give me one, any one of the E's.
Energy.
Energy. If you don't know how you're connected to what? It, and how it's connected to you, then if I have bad energy,
I'll get that energy.
but you won't know that. You'll just be pissed off. You'll just be angry or sick, depending on how it's manifesting inside of your body. And that disconnect of understanding, are you receiving my energy or are you creating it? And if you don't know that you're receiving mine, because we know there's some energy suckers out there. If you don't know you're receiving my energy, and you think you're creating it, guess where you're going to start asking the why am I feeling this way? So you just did the ooh on top of you. You just gave yourself something like, why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't be feeling this way. I thought I was happy today. I guess I'm not. So there it goes with, now we're all back into a whole other segment of life and living and therapeutic studies and so all that stuff. So, but if you don't understand the connection, now you're stuck. And you're doing that. Give me another one. She did it. Huh?
Emotion.
So emotion's a thought, right? And we just talked about the pie. So if I know how my pie is turned out, do I know my ingredients?
Yes.
Understand your ingredients. Because most people understand the outcome, but they don't understand the ingredients of how they got there. To me, knowing something, understanding something, puts you into an action of doing something. So, yes, I know my emotions, but I don't understand my thoughts. Well, then technically, you don't understand the truth of your emotions. And if you understand your emotions, then you can understand how the action developed the thought into...
Can you give like an example of something like, let's say you wake up and you just feel very like angry that day, or
Okay.
or sad.
So you wake up sad. How to work on what's the process? So one, let's go back to the sensational feeling. Where do I feel that sadness? Am I heavy in my heart? Am I heavy in my shoulders? Does it feel like I just got like 30 pounds on my feet? Like, what does it really feel like? I eat breakfast and this doesn't even taste the same. So now we're into taste your buds and what the signals is changing, what the chemical does in the saliva, what does that too. So those are those informational signals that I want you to start to develop that awareness about. Because once you start developing that awareness, then you'll be like, I have coffee every morning, and you look at your cup and you're like, maybe it's the coffee, maybe it's a different brand of cup or whatever, and you're like, no, I'm just not feeling right. So there's a connection between taste your buds, right? Smell, hearing, touch, all that really comes to relational signals of the body, and that's informational. So did that help? So wake up, not feeling well. I understand where the sensation coming from. I'm feeling heavy in my shoulders. Ooh, I go to Pinterest, look up emotional body, and it says that I'm carrying something, you know? Just
How do you deal with it?
well, I don't want to get into the how, because everyone has different hows. And all hows, like Giggles Allen, all hows have a different modality of why it works. She's feeling heavy from not feeling well, she's heavy. And she goes and takes a eucalyptus bath. perks right up. Okay? That's great. We still don't understand where the antithesis, where it comes from, but it does help. Or she goes to the gym. This is not feeling well, but I'm going to the gym to exercise. I perk right up. So it does change your endorphins, right? The dopamine, and changes the brain. It still doesn't correct the sadness or the heaviness. So if we don't understand probably the trauma that it's triggering, it doesn't matter what the actions you're doing, you're just going to end up venturing back to the same trauma again. So to me, it's the understanding of where this is going. I still want you to exercise, eat good foods, take the eucalyptus bath, and burn a candle, chant, all those things. But still, now it's the investigation of the where it is in the body of the sensation, and what's the information telling you about it.
So, for example, if there was something like, let's say, early childhood experience,
Right.
traumatic,
Right.
you're saying it really is very important for us to
No.
try and connect
Yeah.
to what that event was.
Yes.
Then connect sort of the emotional aspect of it with the logical understanding of the event.
Yeah, because you're never going to change it, right?
Yeah.
You just got to be like, yeah, I'm okay with that. Then it comes into forgiveness, right? Once you say, man, I was feeling sad because my memory was logged into this. I look at the emotional body, if you forget it and start splintering, that once we connect with that emotional self, or that awareness of that feeling, and embrace it, you connect with it, you reconnect with the understanding. You don't have to change, never ask the why, but you understand it where it's coming from. Now you don't have to carry it. It'll just walk with you. Most of the time we're carrying stuff. But if we embrace it, it'll just be like, all right. It's kind of like a child. Sometimes I look at parents who carry the child, and they're like, it's just so tired, it just wants to walk. I'm not carrying my child, and it's got to be past that. I'll be like, I'll walk slower. Because I'm in a hurry because of my time, my space. The child's just tired, so it's doing this now. So I will walk slower. Because if I start carrying the child, now I have this extra weight. Well, with your personal self, let it walk with you in the rest of your life. Embrace that. Let it walk with you. Saying, you look great today, Paul. Great. Because me, my 6-year-old sadness self, we're cruising. And I know exactly why 6-year-old Paul was depressed. He forgave me. Now I'm cool with that. I won't change it, but now it's growing up inside of me now. It's redeveloping that change of life. That's again what Buddhism talks about, that change in life. Because now it's growing up again. Because as soon as you acknowledge something, it doesn't disappear. It just starts cruising with you.
It's like letting it go.
Yes. Yep. And I don't mean the frozen let it go. I mean really let it go.
Yeah.
I like your description though, because it doesn't disappear from your life. You just transmute it into a healthier.
You.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I've always, I never thought of it that way. I always kind of thought of it like you let it go and it goes.
No.
It's still part of you.
It's still part of you. We don't want to separate ourselves. If we did, we would be. If people were like, I think I saw you on Fifth Avenue. You're like, that was me. They're like, no, I'm telling you, it looked just like you. You're like, no, that was my emotional self. That was myself when I was 4 years ago when I was getting a divorce. Now I'm different. So we have these. One of the greatest movies I think you can see is when those people have those what you call the splits into different personalities. We literally have those personalities. The reason why we're not psychotic is because we don't do anything bad. But we have different things at work, the people you're going through, because we associate with them differently. So we're splitting ourselves up into these different entities and these different states. Not good. Not because you're not going to keep track of them, but one's going to get sick and the other one's going to be like, I don't know what's wrong with him. Well, he's not happy at work. Well, we don't go to work. He does. So when he goes to work, Well, like, see you later, work ball. You're gonna be miserable. And so we wait till you get in the car. We're like, cool, let's go out. And Mrs. Paul's like, no, I don't really want to go. And we've all had that person in our car. What? Are you kidding me? You must be broke. You got no money. I always got to cover you. So, but if we embrace that, Paul, like, hey, let's work this out. Now I can go into work and totally understand why I'm not happy here. Whether it changes or not, I understand it. I'm not unhappy because it's probably not manifesting with my greater self, but at least I understand the reasons. And now I'm less happy with myself because the environment is still there, but I'm better in it. Does that make sense? And that comes with, once you understand you're better in it, then it changes from the mind working to what working? The brain. And once you understand what the brain is doing, because you're an active participant in all of action, thought, and process, you become CEO of your body, yourself. You become the commander. People say, do you want to do that? I don't feel like I should do that. I understand I have to do it, and I'm okay with it. And once you take that process thought in your head, you can't be like, I can't believe I'm doing this. You stop asking that question. You say, I totally know why I'm doing this. I have to. I got bills to pay. I got it. I don't care how depressed Paul is at work. You better go. So understand the process. Thank you. Any quick questions whatsoever? It's 5 o'clock. Everyone wants to get home. I know I seem like I got a long drive myself. Huh?
10 o'clock.
Do you really? No, I'm in Wappinger Falls up there someplace.
Oh, you up there.
Yeah. So any questions for me? You can always, I have a radio show every Monday. It's live, it's actually called Bridges. And it's on the BBM Global Network. But you can catch that podcast on drpaulholisticscience.com. drpaulholisticscience.com. You can always reach me if you want. It's really easy. Dr. Paul W Dyer @gmail. Questions, comments, thoughts. Because things, when it comes to the science, it's tough giving these lectures because I like to get specific to the person that's asking the question. Like you ask a specific, like I wake up in the morning. So then I can delve into, once we get into where it is, and then I can break that up and how the chemical works and stuff like this, then you really understand that connection process.
Can you mention that radio program again?
It's called Bridges, and it's on the BBM Global Network.
Do you get that on computer?
You can, right? And then the podcast comes out about Wednesday or Thursday, then of course.
Not on the radio?
It's it's broadcast over
The internet?
the internet, yeah.
So is it-
And it's a live, it's called a talk show actually, so.
Both of them are on the web, both on the internet?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Holistic Science?
.com is my website. So you can catch, if you don't know how to get to the BBM, you can find my podcast.
Bridging?
Bridges is the name of the show. Yeah. I think a lot of people are doing some amazing stuff out there. So a lot of my guests I like to have on the show are talking about their experiences, how they're changing lives are changing. And I think, it's kind of like, hear the stories, and hopefully it can bridge the science into the story. Because there's so many amazing people out there just doing some amazing work. And I think we don't hear enough of really good stuff. And then hopefully we can talk about the science, a lot of good stuff is the good stuff. So, yeah. Thank you, Paul.